Hi everyone. Did you ever wonder how mantelpieces look so gorgeous and full and lush, and every time you do them, they kind of look sad? Well, I'm going to show you just how to do that today. I'm going to show you the insider tips and how to take your mantelpiece from this to this. That's all today on Living Beautifully's Holiday Edition. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, and the bell icon because you want to know when the next video is coming out. There's so much more for the holiday season this year. Full house tour. God, about 18 different things are going to be popping up on YouTube this year. It's 2019. It's the launch of Living Beautifully, and you're not going to want to miss a moment of it. So let's get started. First, we're going to use my friend, the artificial evergreen. So we're not going to go through a lot of the detail work of how everything's done, and we're not going to bore you, but I'm going to give you the tips. So you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, you're a designer and you're using artificial. Yes, I am. The reason why is because we put our holiday decorations up before Thanksgiving because we're busy, the family's huge, and we celebrate Thanksgiving with about anywhere from 20 to almost 35 people, depending on the holiday or depending on the year. And that's really the last time our family comes to the house for the holidays and then family and friends, other family and friends will come later in the season. So it's really hard to keep fresh greens fresh unless they're in vessels like you see behind me and in the intro. So we're going to use artificial greens. And this evergreen garland has been, God, this green garland has been in my family's use, I guess, since I was 6. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it's a while. And it still looks good. It's not today's most fantastic artificial evergreen garland. That's okay because I trimmed the heck out of it. So this is actually my family's home. So I come every year and decorate the house for my mom. And of course, she was always my best client and my biggest cheerleader. So this garland's kind of special. It may look ratty or whatever, but it's not going to look like this when it's finished. So we're going to start with inserting some of these evergreens. And the theme of this room is red and white. Lots of red with touches of white and vice versa in different areas. This is the focal point of the room, so we're going to do it extra heavy. And what I usually do is I take these picks, I have them lined up here already, and I insert them into the greenery. And instead of being jazzy and using wire, I actually am even jazzier, and I use the greens from the greens, and I kind of just anchor them in. One there, and I'll come over here, and I'll put one this way. And already you can see that these are adding a lot of volume and a lot of depth. They also have a little touch of white on them. They have red berries, which we're going to insert a lot more red berries coming up. And then we're going to put more this way. And this really adds a lot of volume. It doesn't look like a lot when it's separated, but what it does is really give you that vantage point of fullness and lushness, and it gives you everything you're hoping that your garland would be. So I'm going to continue this and show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so I got mostly all the greens in, and I added in some of this really cool artificial cedar. This green will be featured up above in the vessels, which you will see when the mantelpiece is complete. Well, you've seen in the preview, but you'll see it again when the mantelpiece is finished. And I wanted to pick up some of those greens, but the cedar will eventually dry and drop all over the floor. So add a little bit of this pretty little cedar that's plastic. And plastic was like the big thing back, I don't know, years and years ago, grandmom's era. But it's making a comeback because the quality of the plastic is really indiscernible from what fresh product is. So this is not exactly the best plastic right here, but again, this is going to be tucked in a garland. It's really for fullness. But what I want to show you is a lot of people will buy their picks like from the craft store or the local or your local florist, and they're like this, and they expect it just to jump in the vase or the garland and be fantastic. No, it doesn't happen that way. Sorry, so sorry. You got to really kind of play with it. You know, give it a little bit of life, give it some depth, take it from squished. These things have been packed in a box, most likely from the East, and they haven't seen the light of day since the florist or craft store took them out of a box. Make it look like something. And this has a sister piece over there, and we'll just tuck in like that. So you can see there's a lot of fullness with just these artificial greens. And truthfully, it's still kind of, but that's okay because this is really just the base because I have a lot of stuff to put in here. You will notice I have the garland already anchored on the mantelpiece before the video started. I don't have a tutorial on that because it's a little bit of a fight and I don't like to swear on camera. So I already have the mantelpiece tacked in the back. A lot of people will use the command hooks. I have nails that are set in the back already. And there's a few wires extra to keep the sides up. I'm really big on not draping to the floor. I like, and this is great for people with cats if they can't reach the mantle. I like coming up and over the sides, which you saw in the preview. So the next thing we're going to do is actually light the garland. So I'm going to grab the lights and then I'll be right back. Okay, so next up we have our lights. And this year I decided to go with these really fabulous LED lights. I'm a really big fan of incandescent, so it really took me a while to find something that looked really close to incandescent. I have a hard time with LED. I see them, they have that sort of funny vibrating look to them. Sometimes if you can pick up that with, even the cameras will pick up that kind of flicker, super fast flicker. And the coolness really bothers me. Battery operated one, so I tested about 6 different varieties this season, and this I found at a supplier in just outside of New York City. And they're really fabulous, and they look really like incandescent bulbs. But the great thing is they don't get hot, and they last for a very long time. So here's my trick on how to light the garland correctly. These are really intense, so what I do is, I don't want to have anything lumped together in one spot. I plugged it in down the end. It's connected off the back. It's already hooked at the one side, so I'm going to take this and put it over here. And now this is my end point. And when I discovered this trick years ago, I was like, oh, is this how you not run out of lights by the time you get to the bottom or to the end? Yeah, this is the magic. So now I've found pretty much what my center is, and I'm going to put my center point in. I know, crazy, right? So it's so simple. So next I'm going to divide up again and put this in here. Now this middle point may not be the exact middle point depending on how I lay the lights out. So what you have to keep in mind when you're lighting something is there's a vantage point to what people are looking at, and they're not really going to see back here, but they are going to see here. So I'm going to take these lights and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to hide the wire as best as possible. I don't like wires. These are going to come forward. And I'm using a string that has 560 lights on it. So you can imagine in the evening when there's no sunlight in here, it's going to look really intense. And because this is pretty well stretched out across the garland, I may have to add another set to it. I'm not sure. 1,200 lights in this one garland is a little bit much for me. I have it over a doorway behind the camera, and it's a lot of light. So I don't want to distract from the decorating. So I'll continue this and I'll show you what the end result is in just a second. Okay, so I have lit the garland and you can see it's plenty of light. I really love the little tiny sparkle and crystal-like twinkle that these lights give off. And again, they're not hot. I will use dried product in some of my designs, so I like this especially for the safety of using dry product with Christmas lights. Even the mini incandescent bulbs will get hot. I know I'm fluffing as I'm talking to you, sorry, force of habit. But you can see it's lit pretty evenly. I'm not really overly concerned with the dark spots. I can hit them with ribbon. There's a lot of forgiveness. So this is a good time to say to you, don't be overly critical be overly critical at the end, but even then, give yourself forgiveness. This is your piece. You do it the way you like to do it. This is just me showing you how I like to do it. So moving on, we're going to start putting in other decorations, and we're going to start with the ribbon, which I think you're really going to go bananas because I did when I saw it, unless you're not a fan of plaid. Stay tuned. So we're back, and here is the red ribbon I chose. I bought this last year when I did the 12 Days of 12 Days of Christmas Trees feature in 2018, and I really loved it. I used it on a white flocked tree with fresh red amaryllises, and it looked really beautiful. It was towards the end of the holiday, so it was late December. In case any of my followers missed it, it was towards Christmas Eve. But what I did this year was I was lucky enough at the supplier to buy 4 more rolls of this width and 2 more rolls of the smaller width. And the idea is that when you buy a ribbon that's like this, where it's like a faux silk Christmas ribbon, it comes with a sort of a heavier price tag. But this is what I call a Christmas investment piece, because you're going to use this because you're going to love it, and it's going to be around for the next 5 to 10 years, we'll say. And if you say you get a wreath for the front window to hang on the inside and the ribbon doesn't match, what do? How do you match this red? And reds are not easy to really mimic unless they're from the same manufacturer, and even then the dye lots are off. So my big tip is to always buy extra, and it sounds crazy, but just store it, because we have a garland behind the camera you can't see, and we're adding this ribbon to the garland this year, and only because I bought enough we can do that. So that's a big tip. So part of my back, but you're going to watch me put this ribbon in, which a lot of people find to be the hardest, and it is a beast. I still struggle with it. It's not an easy thing to do. And some designers breeze right through it. I have ribbon issues. So I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to talk you through it just a little bit. I don't want to bore you. We'll start, and then we'll fade out, and we'll go and see the finished product. But what I do is I start from the end, and it's okay if you want to do 2 tails. I may do 2 tails. You can have 2 tails coming off the side, which looks a little bit more interesting than just this little puny guy over here. And if you can see up here, in these urns that I color treated to match the wall art, I'm kind of testing out what they're going to look like. So if you think that designers just kind of walk into a space and go, Shazam, it's done. No, I have to really think about it and see if that's the greatest end result that I want. I'm not going to just start off with, throw it up there just for the sake of getting it done. So this is being tested out. I'm going to be careful how much ribbon goes up there, if it gets any ribbon at all. Anyway, so here, the biggest trick with ribbon is pushing enough inside. This is why I say buy extra, because you think, oh, it's going to be enough. It usually never is. So when you push inside, you get that really nice sort of like luscious, luxurious, like tuck this way, and then you're going to loop it in here, and people are going to say, oh my God, how did you do the ribbon that way? You watched the Living Beautifully video. But in all seriousness, this is the trickier part, how to get it to sit just right. So now the ribbon's coming this way. We're following the line of the garland. If the ribbon, there's no place to tuck in and you want like a piece way up here, you can either bend the Christmas green, which that looks silly, or you could also grab some florist wire, which you can stop into your local florist and ask to buy X amount of stems of, they call it stick wire. And I recommend buying that from a local florist and not a big box craft store. Support your local florist, support family business. These are people who are trying to put kids through school or take a vacation. So you can see I'm not liking how this is coming out already, so I'm almost ready to change it. That's better. And then I can come back on itself this way, or so it doesn't look so puny, I could actually come back underneath. I'm just shoving it in. I'm not doing anything really technical besides shoving it in and then coming back and like adjusting it, and that you can do even more so later. So we've come up this way, we've come down this way, and there's a really cool bend in the ribbon here. I'm not going to touch that. It's wired, so it's kind of doing what it wants. And then I'm going to say this piece, I'm actually going to wire this one. I want this to come up back here. No, actually I don't. I want this to come over here. Sorry for my back. Piece of florist wire. We're not expecting hurricanes, so don't worry about how deep you stick it in. The garland is like, will grip it. There you go. And there's a bend there. So I'm really kind of rushing through for tutorial's sake. But I will play with this for quite a while. Like, I'll come back to it. 10 days from now, I'll say, I don't like that loop, let's push that over there. So I'm never really happy with it either. So I'm going to continue this, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so I finished doing the ribbon, and you can see it looks pretty good. And it's deep diving in certain places. It is losing wire. It is curled and looped in other places. It really kind of gives you a sense of festiveness, festooning. But I had a little piece left over, and what I thought I'd do is actually add some tails to the end, because it gives the onlooker the illusion that you've used more than one roll of ribbon, and it seems more festive. So I'm going to tuck a tail in here. I've just taken the end of the wire, and I basically, if you can see that, I've actually just taken a long piece of wire, hairpinned it this way, and then wrapped one end around the other. And I made what they call in the floral industry a double leg mount. And cute little bunny ears. So these bunny ears, there's a big divot right here. And like I said, it fools people to thinking that, oh, they used like 4 different pieces of ribbon to make that garland. You should see, it's really clever. I mean, you really didn't, but it just gives interest. And then this little guy off to the side over here. Go ahead, little guy. And you'll notice I turned the lights off. I don't like lights on while I'm decorating, because it distracts your eye, because then you'll have bare spots. And if you need to adjust the lights after you're finished, sorry my back's been to you. If you need to adjust the lights when you're finished, just pull them down this way or that way. That's great. So that's the ribbon. Next up, we're going to do pine cones. Okay, so next up we have the white painted pine cones. These are a pine cone that's painted. You get them from your florist, and they have a green 6-inch pick on the bottom, and they come in a case. So if you're making the investment of doing your whole room, ask for a case. There's about 100 in a case. They go fast. Use them in a bowl, pop them in moss, or if you're still using Oasis, use those items, and then you can make a centerpiece matching for your table, etc. But if you see, I started putting in some of the white pine cones, and some pine cones actually already existed in the existing swag. But what I'm doing is adding white, and the white is pulling out the white in the plaid and making it like a little bit more wintry. But I want to add white without being so literal to add white ribbon. I need something natural to be to offset all the fabric and the shiny ornaments that are going to go in here after. So I chose the pine cone in white, and it may give the illusion of snow, but I just kind of like the way it looks. I think it has a really kind of festive, I really enjoy white and red at the holidays. I think it's very traditional. This one's extra white. We'll give it a little bit of place of honor. And it does a really good job of breaking up the monotony. This one's a little bit too yellow for me. The monotony of all the red and green. And it gives you this really pretty sort of whimsical vibe. And you can see there's like little impressions or depressions, I should say, in the garland. And this one just sits right inside of it. Same thing with this guy. He just sits right inside of it. And a few more down here. So I try and find longer ones and short and fat ones. And the longer look great kind of poking up. The fatter ones look really beautiful, kind of tucked inside like little rosettes. Sometimes you'll come across a few that are really tiny, and they're a great accent next to the other little rosettes. And here we have this bend in the garland. And because of all that extra green, I can feel that grabbing. And really, none of these are falling off. Look, this one's a little bit loose, but guess what? Shove it right back in. They're really sturdy, so you're saving yourself a lot of aggravation by using these picks. We want to come up this way. This one that was a bit more yellow, we'll put him behind the ribbon. Home for everybody. Another little guy, we can tuck him over here next to that, inside that ribbon. And that pretty much puts all the pine cones in. I may add a few more once I get the decorating started, but it gives me a good start and a good base. And next up, we're going to start putting in some ornaments and berries. Okay, so we're back. Next up, berries. I had said ornaments, but actually forgot the berries. And this was actually a garland that I purchased from my supplier. Garlands are always the better choice as far as budget concerned. If you buy these as a full pick, which you will see these at the craft store or some of the florists that sell ornaments at their shops, you'll see these in full picks, which are great if you're going to vase them. But if you're going to use them in a garland, use the garland, but break it up so you have individual pieces. And that's what I did here. And it's a money saver. So it gives you like a really good sort of way of making things have a lot of depth. So like these two pieces are just two big hunks of berries. And honestly, I kind of put them in very indiscriminately, and I look for the points that are kind of like jumping out that say, you know, this, what looks like it could come forward and splay out. So in other words, like I find a group of pine cones like I did here, and then I push them inside, and the berries look like they're coming forward from that group of pine cones. Same thing here. This is actually, you can see it was a garland because it still has the loop on the end. But guess what? We're right inside. There she is. Happy, happy, right? Like our friend Bob Ross. Love Bob Ross. Always a happy cloud. We got happy berries. And oh, it reminds me of a really sweet friend of mine who was a longtime client of mine many years ago. Well, not that many years ago. And we used to joke about her holiday installations. And one year, it was a very berry Christmas. So if you're watching, you know who you are with the very berry Christmas. For me, it's like a classic, an old standard. I have to have it. But we just had so much fun working together, and we would name every holiday, which is hysterical because like each holiday, you know, we had a theme or a slight change. But the one year was always a very berry Christmas. And the one year when the recession hit, it was a very lean Christmas. I still remember that. It was great. But anyway, so you can see the berries are just kind of going in. I'm being cautious to space them out evenly, but I'm also being, I'm just kind of being relaxed about it. I don't want to really be too uptight about it because there's still a couple other things to go in. So this may change. So this garland happened to come with these leaves. Bye-bye. This could definitely change as we're doing it. So that's what I'm saying about being relaxed. Don't feel like you're going to mess anything up. It's just a decoration. I will touch this and, you know, ruminate over it and redesign it. Not redesign fully, but move pieces here and there, depending on the time of day, how I feel. I may come downstairs tomorrow morning and see the garland like shifted and I want to change the pieces. So I'm never really that uptight about it. And if you are, you're really not having any fun with it. So I'm going to continue putting the berries in and we'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, everybody, so I've pretty much finished with the berries. And as you can see, they are pretty cool. They kind of like give it a little bit of movement. They look really festive. And I think they do a great job of picking up the red. The reds are very similar. You can see here where I have the little bunny tails where I made the pine cone nestled inside, the bunny tail, dovetail, bunny tail accent, pine cone tucked in, and really just the berries add so much to it, I think. And again, not 100% finished, but you'll see when we're finished, we want to leave room for other decorations. And there's a few more things we're going to put in. So that's the berries up close and the ribbons and the pine cones. Okay, so next up, we're going to be using ornaments. These ornaments are actually old ornaments that we've had in our family for a while. They're not really an heirloom. They're only about 30 years old. My parents purchased them a while ago, and they've made different appearances. We have them in a bunch of different colors. I took out all the red and white ones, of course, to match the mantelpiece. Then I've also bought some of these less expensive glass items just to fill in a bit. So it's great to have something less expensive kind of tucked in. And then your better, more interesting pieces, of course, where people can see them in their conversation pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and I'll show you what it looks like right after I'm finished. Okay, so I finished putting in all the ornaments. You can see here's one of the German red pine cones, some of the more modern red filler Christmas ornament balls. I've accented it with some bleached preserved ruscus, which is a really new element on the market right now in the fresh floristry. Pardon me, and you'll want to go to your local florist and order this by the bunch. But this is one of those items that I would say don't use with incandescent bulbs. You're going to want to use it with the LED because there's a chance of overheating and potentially catching this on fire. You don't want that in your house, especially during the holidays. Not a welcome addition. But you can see it's really full. It's thick, it's lush, it's everything you want a garland to be. And it wasn't because the base was so heavy and dense to begin with. It's because we have all these beautiful, delicate items kind of like just spraying out and nestled in and undulating ribbon. So it's kind of like a real, to be cliche, treat for your eyes. So it's really kind of giving you the sense of abundance and festivity. So the next shot you're going to see is the final result where we have the urns and the little trees down on the floor, which you can't see right now, all decorated and finished, and you'll see the completed look with accessories, lights on, the whole shebang. So that'll be up next. Okay, so here it is, the finished mantelpiece. As promised, you can see the trees, you can see the urns that are finished with the beautiful flowers and the twigs, and everything really came together to make one cohesive statement. Of course, the focus of the video was to show you how a scrawny flat garland could really come out to something that was so lush and beautiful. But everything together, you have to admit, looks beautiful because it all speaks to one another. Not everything is done with the exact same elements, but it all works together. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video while I created some holiday magic. And be sure to follow me on Instagram for more holiday treats at petah.bashano. And you can find more on Living Beautifully and me at our website and blog, www.lb.style. Thanks so much for watching, and happy holidays.